The sun bled its last light over the dusty ridges of Wyoming, painting the land in copper and gold. The wind whistled low, carrying the faint cry of a coyote and the endless rustle of grass across the prairie. A man stood at the edge of his fence line, broad-shouldered, weathered by time and silence. His name was Eli Boone, a rancher whose life had long forgotten the sound of laughter. He hadn't spoken to another soul in weeks. Not since the drought came and took his cattle one by one. His ranch was a ghost, just like him. The world had turned quiet. Too quiet, until that night, when he heard the sound of hooves. They were faint at first, then stronger, desperate. Eli's hand went instinctively to his rifle as a horse broke through the haze of dusk. The rider slumped low, clutching the reins with trembling fingers. When she fell, Eli dropped the rifle and ran. The woman hit the ground with a cry, pale as the moonlight. Her dress torn, her arm bleeding where the fabric had ripped. Her horse, a black Mustang, circled and stopped near the trough, panting. Eli knelt beside her, his voice rough from disuse. "Hey, easy there. You're safe." She tried to speak, but her words came out in broken whispers. "Please, don't let them find me." He looked over his shoulder toward the hills. No one. Only the whispering wind. "Who's after you?" Her eyes darted toward the fading horizon, fear flickering like firelight. "Men, bounty hunters. They think I killed a man. But I didn't. I swear." Then her strength gave out, and she collapsed against him. Eli hesitated, staring at her face, dirt-streaked, tear-stained, yet unmistakably beautiful in the way pain makes beauty real. He carried her inside his cabin, laid her on the cot, and cleaned her wound. Her name, he learned later, was Clara Dane, a widow from Abilene, accused of murdering her late husband. A land baron known for cruelty and greed. The story spread fast, she said, but the truth never caught up. Eli believed her, not because of what she said, but because of how she said it. Her voice shook not from guilt, but from the kind of terror only the innocent know. For the first time in years, Eli felt something stir in his chest, a reason to protect someone again. He poured her water, covered her with a blanket, and sat by the window, rifle ready. The night dragged slow. Coyotes cried, the wind moaned through the cracks in the wood. And somewhere in the distance, faint hoofbeats echoed. He knew then, she hadn't lied. By dawn, they came, 3 men on horseback. Dust covering their faces, rifles across their saddles. Eli stepped onto his porch, the morning light carving hard lines across his face. The tallest one called out, "We're lookin' for a woman. Slim, dark hair, ridin' a black horse. You seen her?" Eli didn't blink. "Ain't seen nobody," he said, his voice calm but cold. The men spat. "That's so. Funny thing, tracks lead right to your place." Eli's hand twitched near his holster, but his tone stayed even. "You callin' me a liar?" The men grinned, showing a gold tooth. "If the boot fits." What happened next was quicker than breath. The bounty hunter reached for his rifle, but Eli already had his drawn. The crack of the gunshot echoed through the valley. The man toppled from his horse, and the other 2 bolted, disappearing into the rising sun. Eli stood still, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air. And when he turned, Clara was standing at the door, trembling. "You killed him," she whispered. Eli's eyes softened. "He would have killed you." She looked down, tears glinting in the sunlight. "You shouldn't have done that. Now they'll never stop." He holstered his gun. "Then we'll be ready." For 2 days, Clara stayed hidden while Eli prepared for what he knew was coming. He fixed the fences, stocked ammunition, and taught her how to shoot. She wasn't helpless, far from it. Beneath her fear was fire, and Eli saw it each time she looked him in the eyes. Somewhere between dawn and dusk, they began to trust each other. She'd catch him watching her as she brushed the horse, his expression unreadable but kind. He'd find her humming old hymns while cooking by the fire. Her voice soft but steady, the kind that makes a man remember what home feels like. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Clara asked, "Why do you live out here alone?" Eli stared into the fire for a long time before answering. Used to be a family here. My wife, my boy. Fever took them both. After that, I stayed because I didn't know where else to go. She lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. He shrugged. Ain't your fault. Just life bein' cruel again. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was the kind that hums with something unspoken. They sat there until the stars came out. Two broken souls wrapped in the same lonely night. But the peace didn't last. By the third night, the men returned, not 2, but 6 this time. They surrounded the cabin, torches in hand, their laughter echoing across the dark. Eli woke to the sound of boots crunching gravel. He grabbed his rifle, motioned Clara toward the back door. Go. Take the horse. Ride east, follow the creek. Don't stop. She froze. What about you? He looked at her once, his voice low. Someone's gotta hold em off. Tears welled in her eyes. No. Not again. I won't lose anyone else because of me. Clara. She stepped closer, trembling. If they catch me, they'll hang me. I'd rather die than live like that. Her eyes met his, fierce and desperate. Please, Eli. If it comes to that, I beg you. End it fast. The words hit him harder than any bullet could. He wanted to tell her she'd live, that he'd protect her. That somehow the world would make sense again, but he couldn't lie. Out here, truth was crueler than mercy. He nodded once, his jaw tight. Ain't gonna let em touch you. The door burst open. Gunfire roared. Wood splintered. Eli fired back, the recoil jerking through his shoulder. Clara ducked. Behind the table, hands shaking. One by one, the bounty hunters fell, but there were too many. A bullet grazed Eli's side, another hit the lamp, setting fire to the curtains. Smoke filled the cabin. Go, he shouted. Ride. She didn't move. Instead, she grabbed his hand, eyes blazing through the smoke. Not without you. Then, from the doorway, the last man appeared, the leader. The one with the gold tooth. He raised his revolver and sneered. Ain't no use runnin', sweetheart. Eli aimed, but his gun jammed. The hunter pulled the trigger. Clara screamed, and in that split second, Eli threw himself in front of her. The bullet tore through him, knocking him back. He hit the ground hard, the sound of fire crackling around them. Clara fell beside him, clutching his face. Eli. No. Stay with me. His breaths were ragged, shallow. The hunter stepped closer, smirking. Should have stayed out of this, old man. But before he could fire again, Clara reached for Eli's revolver, the one he'd taught her to use. Her hands didn't tremble this time. The gun roared once, and the men dropped, lifeless. For a long moment, there was nothing, no sound but fire and breathing. Clara turned back to Eli, tears streaming down her soot-streaked face. Hold on, please. We can make it. He smiled faintly, eyes already dimming. You're free now. She shook her head. Don't you dare leave me. You promised. His hand brushed her cheek, weak but gentle. You'll live. For both of us. Then his eyes closed, and the wind carried away his last breath. By the time dawn broke, the cabin was gone, burned to ash. But Clara survived, her horse carrying her east through the pale light of morning. They said a woman rode into the next town days later. Wearing a tattered shawl and carrying a gun that once belonged to a man named Eli Boone. No one knew what she whispered when she buried it under an oak tree. But those who passed by swore they heard her voice in the wind, saying, "Thank you for setting me free." And though the prairie forgot many names, it never forgot his. The lonely rancher who did the unthinkable. Who gave up his life so another could have hers. So if you're listening, remember this, in the wild lands of the West, mercy was rarer than gold, and when it came, it never came easy. But sometimes, the quietest hearts carried the loudest kind of courage.